Hey everybody, my name is Joshua Williamson, and I'm here to talk to you about an exciting initiative coming to DC Comics in October. But I'm doing it with an old friend, Scott Snyder.
Hey man, God, you look so fancy. You're freaking me out.
Well, this is my show, and you're my guest, right? I'm the host, you're my guest, so we're here to talk about comic books. So let's talk to everybody about All In.
This is something we've been working on forever. We've been working on it for a couple of years behind the scenes with some incredible creators, and we're just so excited to bring it to you. So what is All In? All In is the biggest initiative that DC has done in the better part of a decade, honestly. Josh and I have both been really lucky over the years at DC to be a part of a couple initiatives. The difference between sort of an initiative and an event, also, an event is like a big blockbuster story that creates a couple open spaces. But an initiative is a moment when the entire company comes together to kind of create a moment, like a seismic tectonic moment at the company that sort of redefines it and tells one big story that invites everybody in to celebrate comics at once. And that's sort of what All In is going to be. Every initiative has its purpose. And for us, All In is a rallying cry. All In is about reminding everybody that this medium, that comics, is where the biggest stories are told. It's where the characters are reborn, renewed, where the biggest legacy storytelling happens over and over and over. It's the greatest continuing story in the world.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've always talked about the last few years is that whenever somebody tries to do an initiative, they always either try to do something brand new with new stuff, or they try to do stuff that always embraces the classic. And one of the conversations that Scott and I were having the last few years was like, how do we do both? How do we do a new story that introduces all of these pieces of like brand new stuff, but really elevates all these classic pieces that we really love?
It starts with story. For us, like every great initiative has a character, has a sensibility, but it's a story. It's about creating something that opens up opportunity for creators to come in, do stories that they want to do in the best way and the biggest way possible. Again, an initiative like this, like All In, is about inviting everybody in, all the existing creators, some new creators, everything, to tell their best stories and to begin them all at one point. The idea is to create the greatest jumping on point for you guys in many years, where DC will be starting all kinds of books, like brand new books in your continuing series, the series that you love. There is no reboot, there is no retcon, but they will have new story arcs beginning in October. Everything begins there, and it all starts with the All In #1 special.
And that's one of the things, like right now we're in the middle of this awesome Absolute Power event with Mark Waid and Dan Mora, and they're totally killing it. Awesome storytelling there. And that actually ends with some really big moments for the DCU. And that's where we start picking things up with All In #1 in October. It's going to be a flip book. Scott and I co-wrote all of it, but it's a flip book where one side is being done by Daniel Sampere, who is awesome, who I did Dark Crisis with. He's killing it on Wonder Woman. And the other side is being done by Wes Craig, who is an awesome artist. And we're really excited. When you guys see the pages for this, it's going to blow your mind. Now, on the Daniel Sampere side, that side is going to focus on what is going on in the current DCU post Absolute Power. And you're going to get to see a lot of this through the eyes of Superman. We're going to see some teases of the new storylines that are coming up. But it's all with Superman. The other side of the story is all through the point of view of Darkseid.
This special, what it really does is it reintroduces Darkseid as sort of who he should be, right? The greatest villain in the DCU, the end of all things. And there have been some amazing stories about him. But what we kind of came up with, along with a bunch of great creators, Mark Waid and everybody else kind of working on the lead up to it, is that during the events of Absolute Power, unbeknownst to the superheroes, Darkseid starts to realize that something has always been missing. He senses something in a special moment during Absolute Power that we don't want to spoil, but he senses something has changed. And once he realizes this, it sets him off on a quest that's going to bring him into direct conflict with this new Justice League that Superman is setting up, this more robust Justice League. And the collision between those two forces will reshape the DC cosmology in a brand new way, in a radical way, in a way that we're really excited about. And in the midst of that, it will create, one thing it creates is a dangerous, wild new planet, a new DC universe, where we've invited in some of the biggest names in comics and some rising stars to reinvent the characters in personal and passionate and daring ways, all in one shared space, and as part of a bigger story that we'll be telling over the course of the next few years. That's the thing to understand. A great initiative, it launches a story, begins with a story, and that story creates a driving force for the company for years to come. And that's what we're trying to do here. This story about the kind of collision between Darkseid, the Justice League, And what that engenders is going to be something that's going to shape the DC universe for quite a while.
And that's one of the things that's really important about this initiative is that even though we have these two worlds, we're telling one big meta story. And part of that new world is the absolute world. And so, Scott, let's talk about the absolute world a bit, and let's talk about your book, Absolute Batman.
Yeah. Oh, so it's been a lot of fun architecting all this stuff with you and everybody else. But one part of it is this is the absolute universe. So the absolute universe, what is it? Without giving too much away, because you've got to pick up the special to see how it's created. If the main universe is sort of predicated on Superman energy, right? And the sort of metaverse concept that was introduced before in Doomsday Clock and elsewhere, then this universe is kind of founded on Darkseid energy. Now, Darkseid energy, the Omega Beams, they zigzag, they're chaotic, they're dangerous, they're wild. And that's the spirit of this universe. In this universe, the heroes come up in ways that make them underdogs. They have a lot less of the comforts and things that they have in the main universe. Without spoiling things in each of the books, they have to be tougher, they have to be more resourceful, they've got to shine brighter, and it makes them more badass, and it's fun. It's two universes, one prophecy. So we've invited in a lot of people that want to embrace that spirit, and they're going to blow you away with the takes that they've created for these characters, for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and on and on. We can't wait for you to see what we came up with.
When you guys see Nick Dragatta's art on Absolute Batman, it is going to blow your mind. It is primal. This is not the Batman you know. He is a beast, and it's really, really exciting. And one of the things that we've been talking about, you might have heard us say Superman a lot. And Superman is going to be a really important part of the stories moving forward past All In. And I am still going to be writing Superman. I'll be writing the main Superman title. And now I'll be joined by Dan Mora, the artist, one of the best artists at DC, will come in and play with me on Superman for a while. And we're going to be doing some really big new stories in Superman. One of the things is we're going to be introducing a new Superwoman. That'll be a big mystery of who the new Superwoman is and how she got her powers. But also we're going to have the return of Doomsday. One of my favorite comics of all time is Death of Superman. And getting to play with Doomsday and doing some really cool big action sequences of Doomsday is very, very exciting. And there's going to be one of the biggest stories I've ever done at DC will be in the Superman title. And, you know, one of the things along with doing Superman is, like Scott said earlier, we're going to be doing a lot of new stories starting in October. You know, there'll be a bunch of jumping on points across the entire line. You know, for me, when I came back to DC with Rebirth and I was working on Flash, I felt like I was the new kid. And one of the best parts of the last few years has been watching all of these new talent and new creators coming into the DCU. And one of the things that's the best part about doing a new initiative is that what I've learned is that initiatives create opportunities. And it's been really awesome watching a lot of these new creators grab this opportunity and run with it and tell some really, really amazing stories. And so you're going to get a lot of new books, new creative teams, and new stories starting up in October.
The biggest thing we want to kind of communicate to you guys is this is not a retcon or a reboot or something like that. It's a celebration and expansion of the great storytelling that's been happening at DC. What it is it's an invitation to jump in. What we were able to kind of do is create a story that in October will have every book starting a new arc. Some of them are continuing on the sort of storylines that they've been on, but it will be a jumping on point. Some of them will be brand new books over in the Absolute Universe. There'll be new books in the main universe. We're going to have brand new origin stories. From October on, everywhere you look at DC Comics will be a story beginning, a place to start. There'll be incentives for retailers that will reveal at San Diego. There'll be incentives for you guys that will reveal at San Diego. But the goal of this, like I said at the beginning of this, is All In is a rallying cry. It's saying comics are awesome. Comics have been awesome. Comics will always be awesome. It will be the place where you can tell the biggest and best stories with these characters ever. And what we want is to communicate to you that right now we're all in as a company. All the creators, all the editors, everybody has bought into this idea of let's all take our biggest swing together at one moment because we haven't done it in a while. Let's all launch our biggest stories, whether they're radical reinventions of the characters, whether they're continuing awesome legacy stories that are happening in the main DCU. Let's do all of it at once, all over the course of this period. We're all in. It's all in the books. It's all in the stores, and we're all in it together as fans and as creators and as retailers and everybody in the industry to say comics is awesome, and it always has been and it always will be, but this moment in particular is going to be more awesome than you can even imagine.
And like this right here, everything we're talking about, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like this is just the beginning of what All In is and everything we're gonna be talking to you about. There's gonna be a lot of announcements this week. A lot of really cool stuff is gonna be teased this week. And then we're gonna get to San Diego Comic-Con, and there will be a lot of really, really great stuff at San Diego Comic-Con. We have a panel on Thursday at 12:45 at San Diego Comic-Con. You gotta make sure you go to that. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff that's gonna be coming to DC in October. And it all starts with DC All In Special #1.